Being 4:30 on May 7th, I'll call the sewer commissioners meeting to order. Elaine, aye.
Bill Watson, aye.
Brian Donahoe, aye.
Okay, we'll start off with update from superintendent while I pass out.
So we pass out.
Pass out some more documents.
So, we had our new employee start this week. Everything's going well so far.
Do you need a copy of it?
Yeah.
Our employee that's out on injury, we hear he's gonna get assessed next week and hopefully he'll be back. Couple other items, the VFD that failed a couple weeks back. The person that, the representative sold us the VFD. They said it'd be about $6,000 to come in and look at it. I found someone that'll change the components and get it up and running for that same amount.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully, I gave the approval yesterday and get ordering those parts and hopefully they'll be in shortly.
They're not coming from China, hopefully.
Who knows where they're coming from. But if they can fix it for what the other company said, they would just come in the door and
Yeah.
say, yes, it's broken
Yeah.
for that same amount.
So they
rather have
from Europe?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it is crazy. A couple things that came up just in the last 24 hours. There's a person down in the Nook looking to add an ADU on their property. And the plans that came across my desk are looking at 2 bedrooms on the ADU,
Oh, okay.
which the original house is 3-bedroom. That would put them at 5-bedroom. So they wanted to know what the costs were. And I went through our rules and regulations. I think you and I discussed in the past, it was 11,000 for an additional
Per,
Bedroom.
per bedroom.
yes.
Where's the
After the-
house located? Bill?
I don't
So
know.
this one is Cedar Street,
7-seater.
Where's that down
7 Cedar in the north.
in the Nook? So they under the phase 1, phase 2,
Phase 1,
fourth bedroom for free?
yeah. So that,
But they're going to 5.
so that would be under our current rules right now, the
Yeah, we
11,000.
want 11,000,
I told them I'd get confirmation on it.
okay,
Um,
which is very reasonable money. for the town.
well, yeah.
And just so Brian, what we did is, we grandfathered in 4 bedrooms and allow basically 4 bedrooms for phase 1.
Yeah.
And then anything over the 4 would be, $11,000 per bedroom.
At this time.
Yeah. I think there's 3 things, soon as it came at first, well, ADUs are a great idea. I hate to be slowing them down. Keeping the old number, we haven't assessed the new number.
Right,
I think policy wise, we might want to think about this. Anyone who's already on, keeping it closer to the, it's not gonna be a lot of them, but keeping it closer to the old number, you know what I'm saying? So that's consistent. But any new house, that's a whole different thing, right? But
That's what
Yeah.
the 11,000 based on,
Yeah.
is 3.
I mean, that's very fair. Just thinking
bedrooms.
it's such a policy kind of question and we're, we don't want to stop something like that. That's it's economically for the family, it's a great thing. And, I don't know if they have a water issue, but it's another problem. My problem. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
okay. And then we can, yeah, and whatever they do would be under the current rules.
Mhm.
So whatever we may change next week, I would say, they'd still be under the current.
Yeah, I think we should make sure we have a little niche out for
Yeah.
that particular unique circumstance, so we
Yeah.
don't mix apples and oranges.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's something I think once we get through this hurdle of the leaching field issue,
yeah,
then we should probably look at our policies and procedures, rules and regulations again. Just to kind of close up a lot of items that
Yeah,
haven't been looked at in a while.
exactly.
Okay. Got another inquiry on 200 Main Street. Currently, right now, 200 Main Street is where you start coming off of Summer and head up towards the
All
police
right, okay.
station. Right at that intersection of Main and Summer. We go up to 198 and 199. Post 200 is up a little ways on Main Street. So they were asking if we have any anticipated time frame that that area would be sewered. I told them at this point, there's nothing I know of in the immediate future. So I just wanted to get confirmation. We
So-
at that point,
This is at the point they call the point, right? And you're heading towards all the churches.
Yeah,
yes.
Interesting.
Brian would love to go up that street.
Too bad. I was showing Dave and Gene the other day, that's on the phase that came out of the TMDL report, which is what started all this anti. It started, as I look back, this is what started all the people wanting not to have leaching fields. That was what.
well, and then, so my question would be, if we go to 198, what would it take what would it cost to go to 200? You know, is that,
Where's the stub in on their property line?
Right now, they don't have a sub.
yeah, we'd have to take it.
No, I mean, well, where's the?
Where
where's
does
the-
ours end?
Oh, there's gotta be a manhole at the end of that run, right?
Well, I think right now, the way that,
That's
Summer
a good
Street
point.
comes up and Main goes up that way, I think our line just does this. And I think house 198,
Has dual frontage.
yeah.
Okay,
So I think they come out this way and then the other house is right here, which probably has a Main Street address, but probably comes out on Summer.
And where's the next up? Is it right there, next one up?
So if there's not a manhole, like, Bill said that the other way to do it would be they're uphill, so it's gravity line, right? No problem that way. So you could put a 4-inch stub like you would normally do, and then have them go down the sidewalk and tie into the other connection, and that'd be temporary. And someday, whenever that is, when we do the sewer all the way up, they just make the connection at no cost to them. It's just a matter. That's the thing, that would be the simplest way to do it. And it's about only 50 or 60 feet at the most, once you get out to the street, right?
Wouldn't they put a manhole right at that intersection though?
There is one out here
On 3A?
on 3A.
Yeah, so they.
They could do that, too.
It's actually kind of in
They
a,
just shoot out to it.
We wouldn't want to go digging into Route 3A if we can help it.
well, that's, I see what you're saying. You possibly come into house 198.
Yeah, exactly.
Lateral with a Y.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And then you're not digging up 3A, we're not getting into all that mess, and then it's temporary, probably 10-year temporary, but temporary connection, we get the betterment, we get the, the flow, and then it sets up the fact someone's asking to get in it, to me, is that the biggest thing that can go. We just, sure,
Yeah, and there's been some houses on Shirley and Maple been asking lately too.
that's,
But
keep a list,
these are things that
keep a list, I mean, yeah,
if it's not an immediate thing that we're going up there, they're gonna have to put in septic systems.
Yeah.
So becomes a timing issue, but what I can propose to them is, coming in, discussing some
yeah,
options.
yeah, I think that's a good idea, and then,
yeah,
yeah, and if we can, I mean, there's nothing stopping us right now. If we get this 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 people that wanna do it.
Right.
Good,
You'd have to get a lot of people to volunteer to want to go up that street.
but I think the message, the fact that someone's coming in voluntarily to ask, that's a really good sign to me. So maybe it's like, as we've said several times, we're open for business. If we can there's a lot of people on Main Street, I've heard, that want that sewer. And they're frustrated, particularly when you go further up, like Maple Ave goes down all the way down the river. They have septic systems, they are really, they've failed. Even if they fail, then we have to wait 5 or 6 years. Whatever, it takes time, but at least that would put them on the list with the Board of Health to say, you can't have a failed septic system, but you can fix it enough just to keep it going. Like a minor maintenance kind of thing, and we'll expedite the sewer. And, won't be the 3 of us maybe, but who knows? But it's just to get it. If the more people that say we want it, as opposed to we're gonna put it down there, you have to hook up, it's a whole different thing.
and maybe that's it, once we get past this.
Yeah.
We send out letters, is there any interest on Main Street? Not that we're gonna initiate it, but if there's enough interest, maybe, I don't know.
But I just happened to bring this. I don't know,
But
man.
then, the thing is once you run a main up that street, everybody's obligated to tie it.
That's why it'd be interesting just to do like
Yeah.
a straw poll, like, are there two
Is
people
there
out
any way
of
to get
three
around that by
hundred?
going up there and, if, let's say, there's 100 houses, 50 want to tie in, you run the main, the other 50, you don't have to tie in.
They don't have to tie in, but they have to pay the betterment.
That was a Board of Health regulation.
Yeah.
If it went by you out.
Yeah, Title V says, if there's a sewer for your house, you can keep your septic system, as long as it doesn't fail. As soon as it starts to fail, you gotta hook up.
Yeah, we can, it's something to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, not gonna solve it in one night, but,
No.
but to, at least people are
Yeah, we're in a much better,
interested.
I love it, having people, hey, we want to join the sewer.
Maybe they
Thank you very
maybe
much.
Then that neighbor can get an easement from the other neighbor down that side of his house, the property.
Yeah,
Although I know the nice fences, they're really tight houses. But if you get an easement to run across the other guy's property and stuff into him.
Yeah.
And home, you're done.
depending on what's in
For
the
temporary.
sidewalk.
If you stay in this, if you stay in the street sidewalk, then that, we own the easement, the town, right? And that makes it, kind of takes away any kind of
Hmm.
difficulty that a neighbor might have or cost they would have. But going, just the last point, going the sewer all the way down the sidewalk on that part of Main Street, the Main Street sewer, it's a disaster. That whole sidewalk is like 1940s version. So if you went down the sidewalk and then you directionally drill under the highway, under Route 3, I mean, 106, that saves cutting through, making the connections. I mean, there's a million ways to do it now that we didn't have before.
Other than that, Brian and I went up to the leaching field this morning to discuss the punch list of items that need to be dealt with CNC. CDM was on site. We discussed, we're gonna look into some seeding issues that we have up there. Some of the seeds haven't quite taken place yet. They haven't started sprouting up. There was some washout during the winter that potentially some of the seed washed away. So we're looking at some solutions to deal with the seeding issues. We'll probably get some information by the end of the week.
Yeah, they have to do something within the next week. They have to fix it within the next week.
Some other issues, it was a washout due to the rain. They're gonna address those issues in the next week or so. And then some potholes up on Country Club Way. They're gonna seal those up. And a couple of manholes that we had put the asphalt on for the plows to ride over them this winter, that some of the asphalt got beaten up. So they're gonna replace that as well.
Think there to something else. The manhole on Smith Lane, last one we have, at that intersection with the lakes at.
Down at,
on
oh,
Smith Lane,
okay,
so
yeah, the top end, yeah.
have you driven over it lately?
I saw it a couple of weeks ago and it's getting
It's
pretty
it's
ugly.
really bad.
Yeah.
I was sitting next to it, watched the car ride right over the top of it. And there's about a 4-inch drop, and about this way, and a 3 to 3-inch drop. We're going in. And that one and the other one a little further down. You have a
Yeah.
cold patch or?
Yeah, I'm trying to work with, Sean. from the highway
Highway,
department.
yeah, okay.
He was gonna get a list of manholes that need to be
That's good.
addressed.
That's
and
good.
we're
That
gonna
one's
go out
brutal.
and address them all.
Yeah.
That's the first one. The second one's pretty bad.
I'll put.
I didn't know if you guys were
Maybe just
talking
put
about
a
that.
temporary cold patch.
Does that manhole have to be raised, reseal, reset?
No, not yet. It's down where you can see the metal rim and the concrete underneath the asphalt. Where they had originally put it in.
Okay, so it hasn't
The asphalt's
settled.
all gone.
Okay. all
It
right.
hasn't settled yet, but I think if they keep hammering
Oh, yeah.
on the concrete,
Won't be long.
it's gonna get worse. And I'm surprised that the person who went through it didn't use a hubcap.
Yeah, they say too, some of the salt is just eating away the
The-
concrete that's holding everything together. So once that disintegrates and starts falling apart.
Concrete they put around those patches is really not very strong concrete. It's meant just to hold the thing from moving. But when the salt gets in, it's not good.
Until you line somebody up to go out and actually fix it, something just.
Yeah, there's a few on Evergreen that Sean talked to me about
Yeah.
about 3 weeks ago on, and he did
Okay.
mention something on Smith Lane.
Mm.
And they actually came out, the state came out, patched around that like 3 weeks.
It's
ago.
actually their property. Well,
But it's
we're-
our manhole.
Yeah,
right?
we're
So
up
it's
on, yeah, on Smith Lane, that, yeah, once you get past Frank Street.
Yeah.
But that they own, that's their property. But we can throw something in there.
Yeah, they came in 3 weeks ago and obviously it didn't hold.
No.
So we're gonna end up having to raise the frame and cover, re-concrete it and patch it. I'll talk to Sean about
Cause
that.
anybody that lives in the town knows to either straddle it
Oh,
or
yeah.
go on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
You must do it too. You know, don't drive over it.
Another thing I would add to your list of health agent, but took a tour with Dave around the treatment plan.
Oh, okay.
It went very well.
Went very well.
And she's on board with understanding how, you know, if we have a sewer line that runs in front of the property, that, you know, they shouldn't be tying a new septic system in, they should be tying in. So we covered a lot of bases.
Yeah,
with that.
that's good. Good meeting.
And she actually had some presentation done by Mass Maritime a week ago.
Good.
What a great presentation. It was absolutely phenomenal. So it was, 3 of the cadets were doing their final presentation, I forget what they call it. It's kind of like a
Next
Thesis.
four?
thesis paper.
Yeah.
And what they did is they took the town of Kingston and they set up a scenario that we're gonna get this hurricane that's gonna come through. And they talked about, you know, 5 to 7 days prior to it landing in Kingston, what do you do for prep? Then 2 days prior, what do you do? Then when it lands, and what happens in the scenario is 150+ mile-an-hour winds, loss of electricity, a 12-foot extra high
So
tide.
it's title search.
And all different scenarios, and the police department was there, fire department, wastewater, facilities, health department, and each one took into you know, sat at a different table. And added, you know, to the questions, what would you do if it was, you know, police related? What do you expect? What if it's, fire department taking people out of their houses if the flooding of bad? Wastewater department, they had the scenario that the Jones River pump station generator failed and water inundated the station, and we had to bypass an overflow situation. So it was very realistic.
Oh, wow. That almost
yeah, it got-
happened too.
Yeah.
Years ago.
times. So, and that kind of helped on my end, having the discussion, because we actually had to bypass that station this past year to do the air relief valve replacements up in the golf course on Roots Way. So I already had experience of bypassing the station to begin with. So, having a plan ready to go, it was already in place, so. But
Very
it was
good.
very inspirational to see these young kids coming out of school thinking about these things. And they're going into like the disaster preparation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Good for them. There is hope for the future.
Yep.
There's,
If they're well educated.
Okay, have you heard anything more on, anything with the water or any water, moratorium or
No.
anything?
No discussion.
I know
They had
they're
a-
discussing it.
They had a meeting last night, but I haven't heard any news on what came.
They're in executive session.
Yes.
That meeting, yeah.
Oh. Okay, we're gonna talk high level, different, scenarios for next week, so we're not, you know, going in without any background. But I want to have Jeannie explain. She's been talking, she's reached out to Division of Local Services and Department of Revenue on some
Good.
questions. So if you just want to fill everybody in on what you found out.
Okay, so Kelly Donato from DOR, left me a voicemail, also sent me attachments. And she's saying, on page 8.
Which
number 4,
question?
About the special assessments.
Okay.
The time frame when special assessments must be billed after completion date. Aren't included in this time frame, but she sent a case, a state case that had the ruling on it, and she said and agreed that the 6 to 8 months is a reasonable time frame for us to do the special assessments
Okay.
on both the real estate and the real
Utility.
estate will be 6 months and the utility 6 to 8.
No to implement it, that's what they're saying our wait period should be, or reasonable wait period.
reasonable time to put the assessment onto the accounts.
Then
And
that,
then,
then that means what we're doing time-wise, we'll meet that.
Yes,
Okay, if we wait, we won't meet it.
correct.
Make sure I'm clear of that.
then the allocation of the remaining $1.6 million. Kelly stated that the remaining $1.6 million could be used for any lawful purpose with an explanation.
Can agree with one.
Okay. So why don't you put that in an email and send it to us and copy Kathleen and Keith, just so we're all on the same page. So it would sound like that the 1.6, if we, based on, she's DOR or,
Department of Revenue.
okay, so in the Division of Local Services had the same opinion,
Yes,
but they wanted you to check with DOR.
right.
To con-
So Ryan from DOR said that he's just the attorney.
Yeah,
So that's why he had me go to Kelly and gave that information, because she's on the financial side and he's more on the legal.
and if I remember, you said that one of his comments was because we had already used 1.6 million to pay the ban, that it would be, he felt it would be appropriate, but check with the financial
Financials.
side. And then Kelly Donato said, we can use it for a lawful purpose with an explanation. Okay.
And you have that as an email in writing, you said, right? Perfect. That's.
Yeah.
Well, that we're done.
Well, she's got,
I have an email of what she sent to me and also a voicemail.
so. Okay, so with that being said, the first page of this packet, I'm just looking at FY 26 leaching field debt. And I show that the amount we need, less the 137 from town meetings vote, leaves the balance. And if we divide it by the existing EIUs, it would be $102 for the year. Then the second scenario shows if we took $100,000 from the 1.6 million.
You're 1.5 million, 150,000,
Yes, the back sheet does show 150
but now you're saying 100.
in addition to
Okay.
because it's actually 53. So the third page from the back, not the third, let me see. 1, 2. The third sheet in the packet. Dave shows 150 with 4% interest.
Okay.
And then the drawdown, that would give us 15 years. I just did 153 because right now $53,000 is paying the apartment's share per year. So if we had increased that by another 100 to offset the leaching field debt with interest, that would last 13 years.
Okay.
And then I have the third scenario is if we don't earn any interest on the 1.6 that's in the kitty, and we still draw down 153,000, that would last 10 years.
But we're really looking at
Short
somewhere
term,
in the next 6 years, short term,
right,
in the next 5 to 6 years, that we're selling off the rest of the fourth thing.
that's what I would think,
And then
Yeah,
that cease. and
Two
then-
different races going on at the same time.
Yeah.
But each time we're ahead of the game.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, if we draw it down for 10 years without interest, I mean, and nothing's changed, then there's more problems than just the sewer department. Because that means there's absolutely no growth whatsoever in town,
Right.
so
Excuse me,
that's,
Just go back to the first point. So with this information from DOR, both the municipal side and the DOR, that both sides of this legally, this seems to address what Keith and Kathleen's concern were about being able to have free cash approved. That was I thought that was their big point the other day, I have no clue about that, but
right,
this puts that issue away, right?
It does, but when I had talked to Ryan from the DOR, he even said, is this because of having free cash certified? Is that? So that was his assumption as well, that it had to do something with the certification of free cash.
So,
That's why they were hesitant.
and they addressed with the second opinion, that is addressed, so we're pretty solid on that point. I just want to make sure, we had a good discussion, it was a little new stuff that we're addressing that, and now we're going forward with kind of where we were a while ago.
and I think part of the concern as well is us drawing down too much too
Yeah,
soon,
that makes sense.
which is understandable.
We're just in a weird situation that none of our doing.
No.
Okay,
By drawing 100,000 a year,
In addition to the 53,
yes. So overall being around 150, it could put us out 15 years.
yes, that with your 4%
Gotcha.
worst
Yeah.
case, worst case.
is 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, if we can't figure this out in 2 years.
Right,
we get more help.
right.
I'm sorry I interrupted you as you were going down. So you're saying first scenario would be $102 a year
Right,
added to the bill,
right. And the second scenario
is
is,
64.
yes, and that's using $100,000 in addition to the 53,
Right.
uh,
I'm okay with
from the
that.
1.6. Yeah, so these are the scenarios that I will bring forward next week.
Right, but I would like to see that additional fee put in as a service fee, on our service fee, on top of it. Because we could change that anytime we want, and reduce it.
That's a good
Because
point.
Right.
we're all looking.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's
then
the
there's no
flexibility.
special assessment, there's no betterment to being entitled to them. It's just part of the bill.
And that's it. For next week's meeting, we can do I'll do pro and con of a special assessment on the
Mhm.
real estate bill. And then, an increased fee on the utility bill, water sewer bill. And then we can make a decision next week.
Okay.
But yes,
Yeah,
the utility side would be flexibility that we could change. That the complexity, and it's not complex once it's set up. I believe the approach that we're looking at is still doing it by EIUs. So if you're a single family home, you're not paying what the mall would pay for the fee. So that would just make more codes in the implementation. Like I'm making it up,
Right,
single
right,
family
right.
home would be code 1. But the 150 EIUs would be code 150, making it up.
okay.
So,
Yeah, because so the 64 would be basically for one ERU.
correct,
And then if you had two of them, it would double that. If you
yes,
had three, double that, or
correct.
triple that. So that would be, so will we add that to the service fee, or will we have a separate service fee specifically for that on that bill?
We can discuss what's the best approach. I'm gonna say, just with the way you're saying, I'm gonna say probably a separate one,
Yes.
because it's based on EIUs.
Exactly. So if you have one, you're gonna see that 60, you're gonna see your regular 42 plus 60,
Yeah.
4 through 64.
And,
Right, I got you. And then that's what it would be based on.
Yeah.
ERUs.
I think the way particularly you did with these guys, made it flexible. That's like the key thing, because you can only be a 1 year thing. And we can maybe do it 10 years, if we can go, but it's the flexibility is the best thing that could happen with that.
yeah, and
Which brings you to your third example, right? Because your third example doesn't have the 137
correct.
contribution on it.
The third example, I have FY 27 leaching field debt. That doesn't take into consideration town meeting, voting again for the third.
So every year it'll give the flexibility to the
Yeah.
town meeting, please, to help out with it.
But it could be as low as $64 or as high as 120.
And the only issue there is the changes for the year, but that's a whole lot worse problem, a lot better problem, I should say, than
And it's an easy
Yeah.
number we can come
Yeah.
up with.
this is perfect.
And it goes by that year's debt. It
Yeah.
would go by that year's debt. So,
It's much more real. We can at least explain it.
So that represents 2/3 right there. Right
Yeah.
there. Looks like what we have to divide out
yes,
from the end. Okay, but they're still paying a third in their tax bill, but they don't never see it,
correct.
you know.
It's not
Because everybody
separate,
paid.
right. It's,
They're just because they're using.
it'll come out of the cash bucket.
Right.
So,
Not too harsh. I think,
So
to
that
cover some-
64 number was the way we ended up going. That'd be 16 per quarter.
well, and that's another conversation where we're working with Stacy, mostly Jeannie, but there's some properties that don't get billed 4 quarters. Seasonal properties, things
Oh, yeah,
like that.
remember.
So, do we just bill for 2 quarters? Is there a flag or something you can say you're not getting a bill, but you're gonna get one for the service fee,
Yeah.
the little
Peculiarities.
processes, yeah. That'll be some other things, and so that's, whether it's 4 quarters, 2 quarters, 3
Yeah.
quarters,
Even the seasonal is still getting the service fee.
No, so
If
with the
it's shut off.
service fee, if the water is shut off at the street, they don't get charged a service fee.
Oh, interesting.
If the water is turned off, but it's still at the house, then they get the quarterly fee. But it has to be shut off at the street.
That makes
For no-
sense. That makes
for no
sense.
bill.
That makes sense.
Because of the service fee, it's a flat
Something
fee,
frees
whether
up,
you use it
whatever.
or not.
Makes total sense to me.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it.
And they can lock the road box. They
No,
can lock the
because their
road
fee's
box.
not based on you, just like us, it's a flat rate that they come up with. for
That's what they
Servicing
said.
the
I
infrastructure
talked to
or
Stacy
paying
and that
bills.
was,
And if they leave the house abandoned without it shut off and
Yeah.
curb stop, there's potential that could freeze and be running all winter and no one knows about it.
Or somebody vandalizes the house, a million different scenarios. If it's off the street, that can never happen. And if I was a water commissioner,
So,
I'd say, that's a really
if
good idea.
somebody is seasonal, that we don't send them a bill? Or they don't get a bill at all for us for service?
One of
There's no water.
my house, I turn it off at the street for the winter.
Yeah.
I only get 4 bills. I'm sorry, I only get 3 bills out of
You only
4.
get the ones that would attack occupied.
Yeah,
Okay, so they've just decided that the way they're doing it is if nothing reads and if no one's using anything, then that they don't get billed that.
yeah, I'm gonna guess it's probably just how the software works.
Right. But I just thought the service fee was to pay for like office staff and that was basically we using this to pay for the staff upgrades or whatever.
The only reason that would change, I think, is if everybody went on vacation.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so just so the behind the scenes, if we went this approach, there'd be multiple codes
Okay,
to
yep.
count the number of EIUs.
And another thing that helps me anyway, put this in perspective, if you look at these 3 scenarios, if you did it by quarters, it's 25.50 for the top one, 16 for the next one, or 29.75. So it's an additional fee, but it's relatively small when you break it up into quarters.
It's just a lot between our bills increasing,
Yes.
taxes, everything. It's just, but our goal is temporary, so.
Yes.
I mean, I was kind of figuring out, doing the math on the future, what was left over, the 865, we haven't sold that. EIUs,
Yeah,
you know, I mean, if you break that down, the entire cost of the $8 million, what's that, $10,000? 865 times $10,000 is $800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So if you're gonna charge a betterment fee, that 10,000, that's there, and the little 13,000 on top of it, that's 23 or 24-ish. And that's it, you know. I mean, anyways, it'll pay it off, it'll pay the debt off if we
Right.
decide to be aggressive with it.
exactly. And that's what the second page shows. This is again, leaching fields debt. The 6,600,000 is the project cost. The 1,500,000 is interest and admin fees, so the total project cost that we have debt on is 8,200,000.
Yeah.
Divide that by, existing and potential,
Yeah.
EIUs. The leaching fields would cost $2,300 per EIU. If we're just looking at debt over 20 years, because that's the term of the loan, it'd be $119 per year.
Where is it 23? I don't see. Is this on page 2?
Yes, second page.
I'm seeing 23. Actually.
2371.
Oh, I thought you said $23.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Okay, I got it.
So, and then this, the underneath that just shows if, you paid it in full. If this, so this is the approach of a betterment. The first page is the approach of, on the utility bill. So, and then just below all of that is just breaks out the construction services, the interest, the admin. So,
So this is, these calculations are all focusing on just the leaching field in this package.
the first two is the leaching field, the first three is the leaching field.
Right.
And then, the fourth page is just showing you the debt. The page after that is our total debt, which is the plant expansion and the leaching fields is 22 million. The admin fees of $500,000. Then when you add in the interest, it's $31 million of debt. If we have that paid by the potential additional EIUs, the 865, that would be $36,000 per EIU over 20 years. And then again, at the bottom, I just have a paid in full price. So, if we get to a point where there's that much additional flow coming in, the additional capacity would pay our debt.
So
And that's,
Yeah, not just the betterment fees, but the usage fees as well on top of that.
right, you'd get additional money for that. So this would pay the leaching field and the plant expansion debt.
Okay.
So, I'm just looking, so should, is part of our hearing, I think it is, but just make sure to establish a new betterment going forward for new services.
Correct.
And is this the number you're,
This is the minimum because
Yeah,
this
I would
would, this would just, it's a starting point because that would cover the debt, 36,000. If we wanted to include, some capital costs in that, future capital costs, and we can come up with a
Yeah.
number that we think
so
is
we have to think about
reasonable.
this before the next meeting?
Yeah.
With the hearing, I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think that's where we have to go. We can't be just going to minimum. And one of the, from a, as our town council said, one of the points I'd like to get a number on, it's just probably pretty easy for these guys, is just what have we taken out of our bank account to pay debt out of either free cash, whatever those numbers
Right.
are, all that stuff. If it's $1 million or $2 million over the last several years,
yeah,
put that back in here, divide the same way. So that, you know what I'm saying, so we have a justification for, we never should have been taking money out of the betterment side, to pay these operational costs. So let's put that in there.
yeah,
And I think I did it before, it's just under 40,000,
okay,
and then you add a little bit more rounded off kind of thing, for other capital. Just that's how I'm thinking, but it gets us into the $40,000 range. And we can always go up again as we get further down. Escalation of money, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Not wait 10 years to 15 years to do it,
yeah,
every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
We make an adjustment and even every year. All right, this is really good.
Well, quick question, are we allowed, you have companies are coming in and they're putting in 300 pots, 300. It's a commercial entity, it's a business,
yeah.
not a residential thing. We're allowed to charge different rates on betterment fees based on what their entity is on the other end. You know, if it's commercial, industrial, if it's a commercial business or a residential neighborhood.
We can check into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. we don't-
My experience with this is you can't.
okay,
That's just, yeah,
You can't do it.
you've probably seen it.
And the reason why you have to come up with a unit rate, whatever that is, we establish it at ERUs.
Yeah.
Okay? If we had done something that's more on what you're talking about, then you could have flexibility. So in order to go a different direction, we have to come up with a whole different mathematics.
Yeah.
To do that. Now, but the number of potential commercial properties we're gonna get into are limited. I mean, I look at as a couple of these, maybe 40B, the mall, and maybe some things on Route 3A that are now, if we're open for business, they'll want a bigger thing.
yep,
But if you go back to this number, you think about it in the ERUs, if it's a residential, the ERUs is gonna go up because it's more applicable.
Right,
Whereas you go to commercial, it actually drops in terms of ERUs.
like, by
Yeah.
a restaurant by seat.
Yeah.
yeah,
By square footage.
So it gets tricky. It really, what I'm saying is I haven't gone through this a bunch of different, it gets really complicated, tricky, and it ends up not doing you any favors. So sticking with that unit cost is very defendable. Been used for 25, 26 years now. No one can argue that it's long.
No,
And in fact, if anything, people got a good break maybe a few years ago, but we also didn't have anything we couldn't expand, so we
Yeah.
were kind
well,
of. being a rock and a
my
hard
point
place.
basically is like the mall, they've got all those apartments up there, they're making a fortune. And they pay very little because they don't have to do anything with their septic waste. We're taking care of it for, you know, user fee. And those apartments, one bedrooms, they're not using 110 gallons a day
yeah, and
because of the water restrictions they put in.
if I remember correctly, the apartments are 150 EIUs. So, that,
It was a big number.
Right,
That's what I'm saying. It actually works out. But they got it at a bargain rate too.
yeah,
yeah,
If
I
you,
mean, they make it out on the cheap because they don't have to run a treatment plant.
right, exactly,
Yeah,
but it
exactly.
helped them and helped us at the time we needed it.
yes,
But think of the number,
they
have
took care of
been,
the
think
infrastructure.
of the number, thinking that, how many ERUs?
150,
150 times 40. $6 million versus 3.2.
they paid half of it.
But I'm just saying, we're
Exactly.
fixing it, we're gonna fix it.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, but they'll be paying, they'll be contributing because they're users and they'll be,
And they're gonna be contributing to the leaching
Yep.
field.
And that sewage treatment plant they had up there, I had the report. It was gonna be 4.5 million to upgrade it
for what they wanted to do.
for what they wanted to do. So for their point of view, business point of view, what a good deal.
Yeah,
Even at 6 million, it was a good
Even,
deal.
even to pay the user fee, which
Yeah.
is still gonna be way cheaper than treatment. Oh,
so
This is
that's it. And the pages after that, the fifth page, well, the second to last page is just showing, the plan expansion debt. You know, after the Mass Works grants and all of that. That's the debt. And then, the last page is just showing how I arrived at the EIUs.
Yep.
So,
Mark, got anything to say?
oh, Mark,
Mark, you there?
On the subject of
There we go. I just had a question about whether or not I could get a copy of that at some point.
sure. I have your email, Mark. I'll send it to you.
Thank you very much, Elaine.
You're welcome.
Is there any reason?
And this is just drafts, Mark. We're voting next week.
That's what I figured. Thanks.
What time's our meeting? 6:30?
6:30, Jean?
Yes.
Did you feel that you want to post another meeting at 6 o'clock just before that? For us, is there anything we might want to discuss prior to?
never
That
know,
action-
maybe that was
Yeah, it
her.
doesn't hurt.
then at your discretion, if you guys, you feel there's something we need to talk about just before we go in.
Even if we just have a regular half-hour meeting and not have one the week after,
Okay,
yeah,
all right, good.
because we've been meeting like every week.
Yeah, yeah, we have.
I love you guys.
I mean,
Can I miss you when you go away, right?
We'll call.
So,
We'll FaceTime.
so this will be pretty much the base for next week.
Yeah,
Do pros and cons, like I said, with the betterments and the utility bills. And we'll just have handouts for
this is,
everybody.
everybody's gonna get together and get this over,
Yeah.
over this hurdle.
Yeah.
And then things will ease up.
And that's it. I mean, there's things out there that, could very well be in the pipeline as long,
well, that's, I'm hoping, I've tried to stress getting this resolved before our meeting. That we want to talk to,
yeah.
that'll be a whole different dimension on some of what we're talking.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
No,
Um, If we ran into any resistance, just for planning purposes, on the 1.6 being used. When we come out of that meeting next week, do we have two options, or do we have to go with one option and that's it?
I don't see why we can't have two options. We vote, and in this scenario, we'll do this. If not, we'll do that.
Okay.
Just
To have
Yeah.
that flexibility, because, nothing's been easy about this process so far.
yeah. And to that point, when we're not gonna. Can you find out for next meeting when this would go on? If we do we know if it's the real estate bills, it would be for July. If it's the water bill, what billing would that be on? And when would Tracy's deadline be?
If we, do the 2 quarters, it would be like the September, January bills.
Okay,
That it would go on. And usually by like the 10th of the month, Stacy starts running the report.
okay,
So it would need to be
no later than August 1st.
August, like 10th.
Yeah, okay. Because another question I also asked was with real estate, it's one property, and with like there's a property can have multiple water meters, depending, like maybe the plaza or some of the shops or something like that. So
Stacy was looking into
Yeah.
that. She hasn't given me the exact information.
to see if,
She didn't think there was a lot out there.
to see if there's like
yeah,
a master.
yeah, the guy next to me on Main Street, he's got 3 water meters on one property.
And that's it.
He's gonna get 5, use
Okay,
for the property.
and that's where it'll be. How do we assess it?
Well, there's one meter, the old greenhouses, it's not being used to shut off, and he's not being built, but the other 2 buildings. He is, so he would get separate building, there's 2 units back there. Two up so far.
So I think if we go that way, we'll just have to do some fine tuning of,
The one-offs.
yeah, exactly.
Or any condo complex, that
Yeah, those are
they all
gonna
have
be,
their own separate.
right. And some are on a master deed and some aren't. So those will be, that's where it'll give us some time to fine tune those, so. You're going to Munis training
Saturday.
Tell them this is what you want to specifically learn.
Yes.
Yes.
That niche.
How to create charge codes or whatever they call them in Munis for EIUs.
Yeah,
If,
I'm good. Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.